When I arrived in New York at 123 West 138th Street, it was an awakening. How my life changed when I came to Harlem. I was about 8 years old when I came to New York City and to Harlem. I was in an orphanage in Rye. The Catholic Charities had told Alexander and Agnes Sanders, who were living in Harlem, that she had a boy, a youngster, who they might like to come and live with them. That was the beginning of my life with a family. Harlem was a fascinating place for anyone interested in music particularly. Across the street, there were 3 apartment buildings. Count Basie lived there, Chick Webb. It was during the Depression. These were hard times, but somehow we managed. My father was working in the post office. Mother stayed at home. Mother and Dad, they were always singing around the house. They loved to go out dancing. In Harlem, there were social clubs, and they would always have dances. My Aunt Edith would take me to the Apollo Theater, where they had the live bands and singers, and that was my introduction to Duke Ellington and all the big bands, but Duke Ellington in particular. I wasn't a dancer, but I loved to stand in front of the band that was playing and listen to the musicians. So that was a big impact on me. The music that I heard in my family, and with them taking me by the hand to these different places, I developed a taste for music, but especially for the big bands. I felt very special. I felt I was loved. And it encouraged me to go ahead. The radio played an important part in getting to know music, besides what I was hearing my family singing and humming all the time. On Saturday night, Martin Block had a program on in the evening called Saturday Night in Harlem. It featured all the black bands, and that's where you got to know them and listen to them. In Harlem, there was a WPA program which I could walk to. It was on the Avenue, 7th Avenue. They would give music lessons to anyone interested. So I went to a theory teacher, Harmony, and he taught me about theory. How does a composer write manuscript? How does he write the music notes and harmony? And I just cherished knowing that much. But when I went to high school, about my second year, at the beginning of each year, they would ask students, anyone interested in playing an instrument? The music director said, anyone for trombone? My hand went up, and I never turned back. I loved it. I didn't know anything about the trombone, but I knew it was one of the instruments in an orchestra. I just had to play something. When I left high school, I was in love with music. And the bandmaster said to us, who were graduating, 1943, he said, boys, your 18th birthday is coming up. You're going to be drafted. I advise you, if you want to continue in music, then you select the service you want to go into. But he said the Navy would be the best one for music. And so I joined the Navy. Navy would form bands to play military drills, bond rallies, entertainment for the servicemen. So I could play the baritone horn in the band and the trombone for playing shows and dances. When the war was over, through the GI Bill, a military man, a serviceman, could go to the college or university or special training school of his choice, and they would pay for it. So I told my mother and dad, I would like to go to Juilliard. I heard about Juilliard School of Music, and to continue to study music with the trombone as my major. I started right in the summer, right away. And that's where I began to get the classical background and training. And I had a wonderful trombone instructor. His name was David Schumann. He himself was an artist, and he would transcribe material for the trombone that was never done. He brought me along. He said, John, maybe one day you'll play for Duke, because he knew what's crazy about Duke Ellington. And I'll never forget that. He gave me confidence. I graduated in '49. But that was the beginning to start looking for work as a professional musician. I was very fortunate. A trumpet player recommended me to Lucky Thompson, a tenor saxophonist who could compose and arrange. He had an 8-piece group. I was playing at the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem, which was a place for the big bands, and was a dance ballroom. Mostly people went there just to listen and to dance, mainly to dance. We auditioned for the manager, the owner, because see, they needed a group to play for dancing when the main band was taking intermission. We were in and out. We didn't always get steady work. But it was during one of those intervals when we were not working, I had met Duke's son, Mercer Ellington. Mercer Ellington was in Harlem, a block away from the Apollo Theater, with another musician. And Mercer stopped to say hello. This was a moment. He said, I got to get a trombone player for Pop, meaning Duke Ellington, who was playing the Apollo Theater at that time with Pearl Bailey. And Louis Belson was on drums. That was a big news in Harlem. The trumpet player that I was with was listening, and he turned to me and said, John, what do you think? I looked at him in amazement. I wasn't going to, And Mercer said, yes, John, go backstage at the Apollo Theater. Duke needs someone. He's leaving tomorrow to go on the road. Tell him I sent you. And they looked at me, and I said, well, all right. So I did that. For the first time in my life, I only saw Duke from the stage. I met some of the men in the band. I went backstage at the Apollo Theater, and when Duke opened the door, that was my first encounter with him through all those years. And he said, come in, and I told him Mercer sent me. He said, can you come back and sit in? I said, well, yes, Duke, but I don't have my trombone with me. I said, I live in Jamaica, Long Island. He said, you think you could go get it and come back for the next show or so? I said, yes, I'd be glad to. He said, okay, I'll look for you later. So I left the theater. I was excited. I ran to St. Nicholas Avenue. Did I run or walk fast? I don't know. But I took the train. You can get the D train or the A train. So I had to change, get on a, nice dark suit, white top, shirt and tie, get my trombone in the case, make sure I had the mouthpiece. And I said, Mother, I'll be back later. I got to go to the Apollo Theater. And she was excited for me. So I had to get dressed as quickly as I could, took a bus, got to the subway station, got off at 159th Street, changed over, and got off at 125th Street. But I think I was out of breath when I got to the Apollo. But guess who was waiting for me? Juan Tizol, who was playing valve trombone. That was his instrument. And we went downstairs, backstage. It was very quiet. The picture was still on. And he was showing me where I'm going to sit. And there's the music. He's trying to show me. And the movie finished. And then the lights began to come up a little bit. And musicians began to trickle onto the stage for the next show. And he was showing me, he said, well, look, John, listen to the trombone players, do what they tell you. And next thing I know, the curtain opened, and there we were on stage to play the show. When I finished, I thanked Britt and Butter. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I thanked them. They just knew he was sitting in because they just wanted to hear me, you know. So I went and knocked on Duke's door, and I said, Duke, I put everything away, and he said, well, can you come out a few days? I said, yes, I'm free. That's all he said. So I did. Wow, I went home and I told Mother. I got packed up the next morning. I had to get downtown. I simply got on the bus and we headed for Washington. About 6 weeks later, we were one-nighting it out to California. Here I was, having the time of my life, playing with musicians that I admired so long, so many years, like Harry Connick on the baritone sax, Ray Nance on trumpet and violin, and the trombonists and the trumpets, Clark Terry, trumpet, Cat Anderson, Willie Cook. They were all so kind, very kind. And so I just played night after night, shows, concerts, dances, on the bus, off the bus, in a hotel, out of a hotel. It was like a dream come true. Duke Ellington played piano, but the band, his orchestra, was his real instrument. And he featured the men in the orchestra. Juan Tizo was the valve trombonist, so when I came in, I was playing slide. So Juan said it to me, John, I got a special trombone I had made for me. I think you could use that with Duke. I think he would like that. He wasn't going to use it anymore. The two other trombonists in the band, Britt Woodman and Quentin Jackson, they helped me adapt to it. And so Duke entrusted to me after that certain things that Juan had done, like Come Sunday and the Black, Brown, and Beige work, and Lost Men in Meditation in the album with Ella Fitzgerald. In the late 50s, when he signed on to Columbia Records, we began to do some recordings. Recordings were really, you had to be on your toes. And Duke knew exactly what he wanted to hear. But many times it was new things, especially when we had the singers, like Ella Fitzgerald, Rosemary Clooney. Then we did Come Sunday, when we had Mahalia Jackson. That's one of my favorites, and I felt privileged that I was asked to play it, the introduction to it on the recording. It featured Ray Nance on the violin, Harry Connick playing a beautiful baritone solo of the Come Sunday theme, and then Mahalia Jackson singing the words to it. So that was very special. It was remarkable how the men in the band could look at a new piece of manuscript and just go at it. Many times when I learned to copy for Duke, and he trusted me with the part, with the score. A copy is so important for Duke because he wrote constantly, night and day. It was not unusual at night when everybody was sleeping on the bus, quiet. Duke would reach up and put the light on and get manuscript, and he'd be hunched over and he'd be writing. Usually you would send your music back to the city and have a copyist write out the parts for each band. But Duke wanted to hear everything right away. In 1956, George Wein, he put together what they called the Newport Jazz Festival concerts. Duke was asked to come and to be a star of a concert. And Duke said to us, he said, when we go back, we're going to do diminuendo and crescendo in blue. He said, Paul Gonsalves, solo.
We would like to bring you from the original Newport Jazz Festival to sing diminuendo in blue and crescendo in blue with Paul Gonsalves in the wailing interval.
So Paul got up and walked to the microphone. Maybe he's going to play a chorus or two, then come back and sit down. Well, he never stopped. He played 27 choruses. And the rhythm section, Duke, the bass player, Jimmy Wood, and the drummer, Sam Woodyard, they were having a good time. There was something that they were communicating, and they were enjoying the rhythm, and we felt it. You could feel the excitement as you were playing among each other and the audience. They were on their feet. When we finished, the applause was magnificent. So that night became a historic night, and well, it was written up as Duke is back. 1965, Duke called me, told me that he was going to San Francisco. He composed his first sacred concert to be given at the Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. And I said, Duke, I'm going into the seminary. It didn't happen overnight. A vocation to the priesthood, sometimes it unfolds gradually. It was one of the most difficult things I had to do. But he was like a father, listening to his son saying, I like to do this, I want to do that. He listened and he gave me encouragement. If I played with any band or orchestra, I would have been a happy musician. But to play with Duke Ellington, the experience of knowing such a wonderful individual and being so close to him, it was just beyond me. I didn't think that it would ever happen, but it did happen, and I'm very thankful for it.